So I'm going to try something a little bit different this time. I have a limited amount of time here, so I'm going to do a challenge. You can see I'm set up for the trim project we've got going on, but what I'm going to do is try to rebuild this Tenon Jig. Now, I just threw this thing together as kind of a proof of concept and just an idea I was working out, but there's some things that didn't turn out quite right. Making it out of 1/2-inch plywood and putting screws in it was a bad idea because it didn't end up exactly square. When I drilled the holes and put the screws in, it kind of split the plies a little bit there and didn't turn out that great. So I have been wanting to rebuild this out of some 3/4-inch ply and do it a little better. And I'm going to see if I can do that in about 40 minutes tonight. So this is the Tenon Jig and how it sits on the Crosscut Sled I built. I put the T-tracks in the rails of the Crosscut Sled so I could put various accessories and things I come up with on there. And these rails have 45-degree bevels cut on either side of them. And the thinking behind that was I could put this angled cleat on the back, and when I tighten everything down, that'll suck this back to the rail here, and it'll keep everything nice and square. Now, in my haste to get this one mocked up and put together, that went a little haywire. So you can see the gap there isn't very consistent, so it doesn't quite pull like I wanted it to. It doesn't sit straight up vertical. And the other thing is, focus, it ends up, it's about a 1/16 off there, but that varies depending on where I set it and how I set it up. It doesn't squeeze consistently, so the gap opened up a little bit there, and that can matter when you're trying to cut tenons that fit up right, and especially cutting the mortise part of a bridle joint. So I'm going to rebuild this thing with a couple improvements. I'd like to put a vertical piece on each side, make it a little less bulky. Got my materials here that I'm going to use, some scraps, pieces of 3/4-inch ply. That'll make it a little more robust, and it'll keep this vertical part from flexing. It'll be a little easier to clamp to, and we'll see if it's better. I've got my timer here. Now I'm using my phone to film, if you couldn't tell by the shady video quality. So I need a different timer, and this will be our timekeeper. I'm going to set it for 40 minutes, and I'll keep checking in to see where we get. So wish me luck, and we'll see you on the other end. Okay, we've got materials laid out here. Got my timer, and we're off and running. So here we go. So what I'd like to do is shorten up the length of this way, and I'd also like to have one of these vertical pieces on each side so I can use it on each side of the saw. So now what I need to do, since I've got those vertical pieces cut, I need to figure out what this length is here and get this cut. I was wrong. I started moving too fast. So before I figure out the height of the rail here, I want to figure out how wide I need to make this thing so I can try to use the materials I've got. So I'm thinking what I have there is about right. A lot better than that one. So I'm going to work on getting this piece figured out and fit up to that area instead, and try not to screw this up too badly. Here we go. Okay, so here is where we're at. We have the two vertical pieces. These are going to go like this. we have our one back rail piece. That's going to go like this. Then we have this piece that goes on the back and rides on top of the rail. That's going to get a couple holes drilled into it so the T-nuts can pass through it and the knobs can screw it down to the top of the rail. These other two pieces are going to go in front, and they're just going to support this and keep it square. So we're moving right along, looking at our timer, assuming this thing even works. We're only about 5 minutes in, so I'm doing pretty good, feeling good about this. Probably about to get cocky, but we'll see if that pays off. I've got the front screwed together, and it should hold right against there like that. Now if I clamp this, let's check and see that we ended up square. I'm not going to clamp it real tight, just enough to slide it down. We'll see what we have. It's not quite real. Okay, so right here. Well, that's pretty good. That's a little bit out there. We'll see if we can down. That squares up. That's it there. Pretty good. Might have to put another support in there. So the next step is to get this piece in there, and that will go back here and overhang the rail. So we'll have to wedge that in like that. And it overhangs the rail, and that way I can put knobs in there to be able to tighten this thing down. And here's the first mistake from working a little too fast. So I've got this piece on here, and I really should have drilled the holes for the T-nuts to go into the track before. It's going to be a pain now that that is all glued together to drill those right, but we'll mark them off and see what we can do. For time, let's see, 15 minutes. I'm less cocky now. Okay, I am just marking roughly where these holes should go, and this is very hard when you're trying to film it at the same time. So I'll just take that mark there and I'll run it around with a square and then drill some holes. I'll use these T-nuts from the old one to see if I have these holes in the right spot. And we're down to about 15 minutes. So if this doesn't work, I don't know what we're going to do. Okay, that seats up there pretty good, locks down, can move it either side pretty easy, and that actually doesn't sit too bad once it's in there. It's pretty stable there, it's locked down. Big check will be to see if we are square. That's not sticking out. That's better. Big thing is we're keep building like that down the block. A little bit of square on the front side as well. That was good. So, I think we have some touch-up to do. I don't know that those are quite level there. So actually, I'm going to hit the bottom of this thing with some sandpaper, try to level it off as best I can. No. What I'm going to do is I am going to get the 45-degree angle put on the back of this so that it mates up with the back of the rail. And that should actually lift the bottom of this thing up off of the table a little bit, and that should give me the clearance I need. here we go. For my next trick, I am going to take this little piece of 45-degree 2x4 I cut off on the miter saw, and I'm going to glue it in the back here. But to do that, I want to put these spacers underneath here. And then that way, when this 45-degree angle meets the 45-degree angle on the back of the rail, and I tighten these screws down, it should pull the fence or the jig back and into the rail that I have. So I might need to trim this down a little bit, but that's going to be the next step. So some bad news. I failed. I was over at the miter saw cutting these little 45-degree pieces, and I heard the buzzer go off. So I didn't make the 40-minute challenge, but I was so close. Literally all I had to do was walk over and grab the super glue, tack these on, and it was done. So let me show you what I came up with. Even though I didn't hit the challenge, I still got a pretty good tool out of the deal. It got my butt out in the shop to work on it, so I'm pretty happy with it. We'll show you what it does here real quick. So like the old one, this one rides in T-track that's on the rail. It's a little shorter than the old one was side to side. It's made out of 3/4, so it's a little more rigid. I've got a fence on this side, so I can use it on this side of the saw. And this one ended up a lot more square than the other one, my old one. So kind of the design principle behind this is these 45s here right on the 45-degree that's cut into this rail. So when I tighten the nuts down, I just have to snug them a little bit, and this whole jig sucks back against the rail of the Crosscut Sled. And that means that it's not actually sitting on the bottom of the Crosscut Sled. There's some clearance down there, and it makes sure that the jig is riding flush on this rail. So that should keep everything square and true. I had a lot of fun doing that challenge. I didn't succeed. Well, I guess I did succeed. I didn't meet my goal of getting it done in 40 minutes. It was probably 45, so I'll take that. And I got myself a new jig that I'm actually comfortable with and that I have confidence in. So I'm not trying to work with the other one and try to figure out how to compensate for it being off. So this was a lot of fun. I think you should try your own time challenges. This might be something that I kind of keep going with. We'll see. But it's a good time. So thank you for watching, and we'll catch you next time.